on research capacity building for minority entities. Dr. Manyibe has worked with Dr. Moore on multiple minority entities, research barriers, and underrepresented populations and outcome-focused projects. Dr. Manyibe worked for several years with non-governmental organizations in Kenya and the United States, where he provided VR and independent living services to individuals with disabilities. Dr. Andre Washington is a research analyst at Langston University Rehabilitation Research and Training Center on research and capacity building for minority entities. Dr. Washington has worked with Dr. Moore on several projects. He has worked on a job developer for Urban League for Greater Oklahoma City and as a VR counselor with Oklahoma Department of Rehabilitation Services. He has served as both president and vice president of the Oklahoma Association for Multicultural Rehabilitation Concerns. He also serves as a co-national chair for the 15th annual NAMRIC Training Conference. And the first speaker will be Dr. Manyibe.
So, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yeah, again, as you heard, my name is Manyibe, and Tasha, thanks a lot for that introduction. This is after lunch. Yeah, as we wait for PowerPoint show up, I think just to mention the need for what we are doing, I guess, has been clearly stated, and also there is a research documenting the need for the kind of activities that we propose to do, and especially in terms of focusing on how best we can bridge the gap that exists in terms of disability and rehabilitation access and outcomes when you look at racial and ethnic populations. So our focus this time will be on the institutional research capacity building and infrastructure model, which as Dr. Moore said, is really an innovative model that looked at existing models of capacity building and identified some of the strengths of those models, looked at the weaknesses, and we say, how best can we develop a model that can really address the needs as they are seen, or as the need is at minority entities. So one thing here is very clear. This model, the acronym, is an emerging research capacity model designed to build individual fellows' research skills. Okay, we are focusing on the individuals. Also, we are focusing on building research capacity and research infrastructures across minority entities and the systems. When we talk about systems, what exactly do we mean, for example? If you look at the financial system in terms of how grants are managed, you look at how the curriculum is developed. That's a system. You look at how the sponsored program works, and all those kind of things. So it's really something that is the approach is so comprehensive and is designed in such a way that we identify all those areas that needs to be strengthened at each of the institutions that will be selected. Again, as I say, the need for what we are doing has been is well documented. More specifically, we did a Langston research, which also found that this need does not only exist. Okay, the need does not only exist, but it needs to be addressed urgently. Okay, ITB has different components. Remember, as I said, this model looks at the individual skills of faculty members and also looks at the institution and its systems. So number one, there's one of the components, the technology support and the consultation, technical assistance and the consultation, research support resources, communities of practice, postdoctoral training, that's peer-to-peer mentor research academy. Okay, one stop there and just say something about postdoctoral training. The way we understand it, the way I used to understand it, and most people I realize understand is, when we talk about postdoc, we mean those students who have recently graduated from PhD programs and now are trying to see maybe they want to go into a research program or teaching, something like that. But for our case, it's different. We say, what about looking at faculty members at minority institutions and focus on those individuals instead of looking at postdoc students? We are not saying that the postdoc program is bad, but we are saying that maybe perhaps it's a different way of doing things at the minority entities. When we realize there is a number of faculty members at minority serving institutions who have all the credentials, they have all the potential, but again, perhaps they have not been involved in research for some time. And so, again, telling them to start doing research without doing something about it might be really difficult. So we said, okay, perhaps based on our research, there was need that if we focus on those individuals at the universities, the faculty members, faculty scholars, and upgrade or help them develop again their research skills and grant writing. What we realize is that these individuals are likely to stay on those universities. They are likely to do research at those universities. As opposed to postdoc students, mostly after their fellowship, research one university are waiting for them in most cases. So they don't end up, in most cases, maybe one or two might find a job at the minority, but in most cases, they go to research one universities. And as we know, how many, for example, historical black colleges are research one universities? Okay, maybe I need not answer that question. Okay, I've already mentioned about the postdoc training, and the next team, the ICIT, will be talking in detail about the approach, what will be done, the specific activities. But generally speaking, we are targeting about 3 individuals, faculty scholars, from those universities that will be selected. And that will have a total of 18, hopefully 18 faculty members. Again, each research team will be expected to produce, because one of the things that we are looking is research productivity. Okay, that's the whole concept, research productivity. So we are going to expect that productivity to be as people to produce. Okay, the research mentor has several phases, and I'm not going through those phases. I'm just mentioning because, again, ICI team will be talking about those specific phases, what each phase entails. But just to mention, we looked at really, again, at the existing models. And we borrowed some of those strengths, but we realized there were some weaknesses. So this model, in terms of those phases, the essence was to make sure that we address some of the weaknesses of the models that exist. Okay, fellow support and incentives. Again, Dr. Moore talked about subcontracts and how we try to create some incentives for these individuals to participate and produce. But again, we realize that universities have a role to play, especially the administrators, and we encourage you to provide any kinds of support what we call measures of support. For example, look at teaching learning. What can I do for the fellows to ensure that they have some time to participate and be productive? What can I do, what can we do as administrators to make sure that we reduce perhaps their student advising hours? Sometimes you can be creative or maybe use some technology that, make sure that students don't have to come to the faculty all the time to come and, seek for some advice that they could easily access if some technology was used. Okay, there's another component, as you saw, is the communities of practice. And what communities of practice really is we realize that where there is interprofessional interactions, where researchers meet, the minds meet and share common things, and I guess when researchers meet, one of the common things they talk about is research. Okay? So we're thinking we produce this. And as our research shows, and other researchers show also, that when people are exposed to other professionals in their area, they are more likely to grow and also establish some relationships, such as if you needed something, it's very easy for me to call somebody, maybe somebody from here now, that some people have known today, and if I have something, I'll easily call you. So we're going to create that. But what that's really going to do is to create something this. This is what we are imagining. We are imagining research in its real sense. That these teams, what happens is there will be that knowledge transfer between research teams and institutions. And that's really what, I guess, this demonstrates. That those research teams, if you look at the blues, they can do something, the oranges or the greens or all of them, whichever way they might want to do that. Okay, there's a grant writing and management training, which has been talked about, and I don't want to take a lot of time. But again, what I want to talk about grant writing and management is that based on some of the models, sometimes you find people attending 1 or 2 day workshops in terms of trainings, and then they go back, okay? And then you realize, by the time you go back, how much do you remember? Sometimes you have not established, some good connections. But this one allows these faculty members to be in this program for more than 1 year, writing grants, reviewing those grants, and all that, attending trainings, and we hope by the end of the training, they will have gained not only the experience, but they will have established some very essential relationships with other professionals who then can be able to continue assisting them in some of the areas that they may need some help. Technical assistance and the consulting. And I want Dr. Washington, this time Dr. Washington, to tell you how an institution, if you wanted some technical assistance, what's the process? What's the process?
Good evening, everyone.